The unexpected invitation. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Defense Academy stretched impossibly high into Centauri Prime's purple sky, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Grand Admiral Vexar, a towering figure with iridescent scales and multiple compound eyes, stood at his observation post, mandibles twitching with barely concealed annoyance. "Explain to me again," he rumbled, "why we're allowing primitive bipeds from a Class 3 civilization to attend the most prestigious military institution in the known universe." His assistant, Commander Trill, nervously adjusted her anti-gravity stabilizers before responding. "The humans achieved the impossible, sir. They scored in the top percentile on the qualification trials, using their own technology." Vexar's scales shifted to a deep shade of disbelief. Their own technology. They barely have functional antimatter containment. They still use chemical propulsion on half their vessels. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a small transport ship, remarkably small compared to the elegant vessels of other civilizations docked at the Academy. Its hull bore the simple designation Earth Space Academy Transport, ESA 117. Inside the transport, 3 human cadets prepared for their first step into galactic society. Sarah Chen, age 17, quantum mechanics prodigy, and the team's strategic specialist, double-checked her tablet's universal translator. Marcus Rodriguez, 16, whose unconventional piloting skills had earned him the nickname The Impossible, ran through pre-landing checks. Leading them was Diana Wells, 18, whose natural leadership and adaptive thinking had made her the youngest cadet captain in Earth's history. "Remember," Diana addressed her team, "they're expecting us to fail. They're expecting us to be overwhelmed by their technology, their protocols, their traditions." A smile played across her face. "Let's show them why humanity never got that memo about impossible odds." The landing was decidedly unconventional by galactic standards. Marcus guided the ship through a series of maneuvers that made several alien observers close their various sensory organs in anticipated horror. But the landing, while unorthodox, was perfect, saving fuel and time compared to the standard approach vectors. "Did you see their faces?" Marcus grinned as they prepared to disembark. All 8 of them. Sarah was already analyzing the Academy's visible defense systems through the viewport. "Their technology is amazing, but they're so rigid. Everything follows the same patterns, the same protocols. It's like they've forgotten how to improvise." "That's our advantage," Diana replied, shouldering her pack. "They've spent thousands of years perfecting their way of doing things. We've spent thousands of years learning how to do things differently." The airlock cycled, and the 3 cadets stepped onto the pristine landing platform. Around them, representatives from dozens of advanced civilizations stood in perfect formation, their biosuits gleaming with integrated quantum technology, their neural interfaces humming with tactical data. The humans wore simple blue uniforms with Earth Space Academy patches. Their only concession to advanced technology was their universal translators and basic datapads. They looked hopelessly outmatched. Grand Admiral Vexar's voice boomed across the assembly. "Welcome to the 500th cycle of the Galactic Defense Academy's elite training program. You represent the finest warrior scholars of your respective civilizations. Over the next solar rotation, you will be tested in ways that will push the boundaries of your species' capabilities." Diana caught Sarah suppressing a smile as several alien cadets activated their neural enhancement protocols in response to the speech. Marcus was barely paying attention, his eyes fixed on the spectacular array of spacecraft visible through the Academy's force field dome. "The first trials begin tomorrow at dawn," Vexar concluded. "May superior evolution and technological advancement guide you to victory." As the assembly dispersed, a group of Deltarian cadets, their crystalline forms pulsing with barely contained energy, approached the humans. Their leader, a particularly impressive specimen named Zarkax, towered over Diana. "I am curious." Zarkax's translated voice held a note of genuine confusion. How did primitive organisms such as yourselves qualify for this program? Diana smiled, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. We cheated. The Deltarian's crystalline structure flickered in shock. She's joking, Sarah quickly interjected. It's a human form of humor. Ah, yes. Your species' infamous humor protocol, Zarkax responded, clearly not understanding. Nevertheless, you should know that the Academy operates on principles of absolute precision and perfect execution. There is no room for improvisation. Marcus couldn't help himself. Really, because I'm pretty sure the universe runs on chaos theory. As they walked away, leaving the confused Deltarians behind, Diana gathered her team close. They think they know exactly what we're capable of. They've analyzed every piece of data about human military history, human technology, human biology. They think they can predict exactly how we'll perform. Sarah grinned. They forgot to account for one critical variable. Marcus finished the thought. Humans really hate being told what they can't do. Above them, the three sons of Centauri Prime completed their descent, casting the Academy in the ethereal light of its defensive shields. Tomorrow, the trials would begin. Tomorrow, three human teenagers would start teaching the most advanced military minds in the galaxy a lesson about the danger of underestimating humanity. The galaxy wasn't ready. But then again, it never was. Breaking every rule in the book. The Academy's combat simulation chamber was a marvel of engineering that made Earth's most advanced virtual reality systems look like children's toys. A perfect cube of quantum-entangled particles, it could recreate any battlefield scenario with absolute fidelity. As the human cadets entered, the alien teams were already interfacing with their neural links, their bodies glowing with bioenhancement protocols. Initial trial parameters downloading, announced the chamber's eye. Scenario: urban pacification. Objective: neutralize hostile forces while minimizing civilian casualties. Teams will be evaluated on efficiency, precision, and adherence to Galactic standard combat protocols. Diana watched as Sarah pulled out her tablet, its primitive screen drawing curious looks from nearby aliens. Marcus was bouncing on his toes, a habit that made him look more like an excited tourist than a military cadet. Why aren't they activating their neural interfaces? One of the Arxian observers whispered, their tentacles writhing in confusion. They don't have any, another replied. Their brains are unaugmented. The Deltarian team, led by Zarkax, had already achieved perfect neural synchronization. Their crystalline bodies pulsed with tactical data streams as they prepared for the simulation. Observe, primitives. Zarkax broadcasted, how real warriors approach combat. Diana just smiled and turned to her team. Sarah, what do you see? Sarah's fingers flew across her tablet. Their protocols are predictable. Every species here has developed combat doctrine based on perfect information sharing and synchronized movements. They'd fight like a single organism. Which means, Diana prompted. Marcus grinned. They won't know what to do when each of us does something completely different. Simulation commencing in 3, 2, 1. The chamber transformed. They stood in a sprawling megalopolis, its architecture a blend of alien and familiar elements. Holographic civilians moved through the streets, while sensor readings indicated hostile forces embedded throughout the city. The alien teams moved with incredible precision. The Deltarians split into perfect geometric formations, their weapons systems linking into a synchronized network. The Arxians went into stealth mode, their bodies literally fading from view. Diana gave her team a nod. Time to show them why humans still play chess. Sarah immediately dropped to the ground and pulled out a small device she built from spare parts. Remember when I said their protocols were predictable? They all used the same communication frequencies, the same tactical networks. Marcus had already started climbing a maintenance shaft, moving in exactly the opposite direction from what standard military doctrine would suggest. Hey, these buildings are basically just really big jungle gyms. Diana walked straight down the main street, making no attempt at cover or concealment. Several alien teams paused their precisely choreographed movements to stare in confusion. That's when Sarah's device activated. Every tactical network in the simulation suddenly started receiving conflicting data. The perfectly synchronized alien teams found their neural links filling with random snippets of Earth entertainment. Cat videos, pop music, cookie recipes. This is impossible. Zarkax's voice crackled over the command channel. Their technology is primitive. They can't possibly. Actually, Sarah's voice was calm as she continued typing. Your systems are so advanced, they never needed basic cybersecurity. No one ever hacks them because no one's supposed to be capable of it. But you know what Earth still deals with every day. Script kiddies. Meanwhile, Marcus had reached the top of the building and was doing something that made absolutely no sense to the alien observers. He was running across rooftops, jumping between buildings, and was he humming the Mission Impossible theme? Hostile forces detected on multiple levels. The simulation AI announced, "Conventional engagement recommended." "Conventional is boring," Marcus called out as he swung from a maintenance crane, using momentum and gravity in ways that made the physics-obsessed Deltarians cringe. His erratic movement pattern was causing the hostile AI to completely fail at prediction targeting. And Diana, she was walking straight toward the largest concentration of hostile forces, carrying what appeared to be a ball. "What is she doing?" an Arxian commander demanded. "That's not a weapon system." Diana pulled back her arm and threw the ball. It bounced off 3 surfaces before landing in the middle of the hostile group. Everyone waited for an explosion. Instead, it started playing "Never Gonna Give You Up" at maximum volume. The hostile AI forces, programmed to respond to conventional attacks, had no protocol for dealing with Rick Astley. Their targeting systems, trying to identify the threat level of the music, went into recursive loops and crashed. "This is not proper combat doctrine." Zarkax protested as his team's perfect formation fell apart trying to deal with the chaos. "You know what Earth's military doctrine had to account for." Diana replied calmly. "Teenagers with smartphones, protesters with viral videos, grandmothers with social media accounts. We learned a long time ago that perfect military doctrine falls apart when you throw human creativity at it." Sarah's hack had now replaced all tactical displays with emoji. Marcus was playing an improvised game of parkour across the cityscape, causing hostile units to crash into each other trying to track his movement. And Diana was systematically taking down enemy positions using nothing but misdirection and well-timed distractions. The simulation ended much faster than anyone expected. The display showed total mission success, with 0 civilian casualties and minimal property damage. This is not how military operations are conducted," one of the Academy instructors protested. "Maybe that's exactly why it worked," Diana suggested. "You've all spent centuries perfecting how to fight wars. We've spent centuries figuring out how to think differently." As they left the chamber, Sarah was already analyzing data for their next trial, while Marcus compared his parkour route to classic video game speedruns. Diana caught Zarkax staring at them, his crystalline form flickering with what might have been respect. "How?" he finally asked. "How do you coordinate without neural links? How do you synchronize without tactical networks?" Diana's answer was simple. "We trust each other to be unpredictable." The other cadets watched the humans walk away, their perfect formations unconsciously falling into disarray. Something was changing in the Academy. The most advanced military minds in the galaxy were beginning to realize that perhaps they had something to learn from the species that still fought outside the box, because they'd never accepted that the box had limits in the first place, and this was only their first trial. The crisis. The Academy's alert system had never activated during a training cycle in its 500-year history. So when every quantum-enabled screen suddenly flashed crimson and the AI's voice announced critical security breach, even the instructors were caught off guard. Grand Admiral Vexar's scales had shifted to emergency response coloration as he addressed the assembled cadets. We have detected multiple unauthorized quantum signatures approaching the Academy. Our preliminary analysis suggests they are Void Raiders. A ripple of genuine fear passed through the alien cadets. The Void Raiders were the galaxy's boogeymen, cybernetic pirates who had rejected all civilized protocols, operating on pure chaos and destructive efficiency. All teams, implement Standard Defense Protocol 7 Alpha, Vixar commanded. This is not a simulation. Diana noticed something odd as the alien teams rushed to their positions. Their movements, while perfect according to protocol, seemed almost mechanical. Fear had them falling back on their most basic programming. "Sarah," Diana whispered, "what are you seeing?" Sarah's fingers danced across her tablet, her eyes narrowing. The Raiders are using some kind of quantum interference. It's affecting all standardized defense systems. The Academy's shields are already degrading. Marcus was staring out the viewport, watching the approaching Raider vessels. They're ships. They're not flying in any standard attack pattern. It's almost like they're improvising, Diana finished. She turned to her team. Just like we do. The first impacts rattled the Academy's structure. The Deltarian defense formation was already falling apart as their neural networks experienced interference. The Arxian stealth systems were malfunctioning, leaving their teams exposed. Diana made a decision. She ran straight to Grand Admiral Vexar, ignoring all protocol about proper communication channels. "Admiral," she called out, "your defense systems are failing because they're too perfect." Vixar's multiple eyes focused on her with a mixture of anger and confusion. "This is not the time for human chaos, Cadet. We must follow established protocols." "The protocols are exactly what they're counting on," Sarah interrupted, holding up her tablet. "Look at their attack pattern. They're not trying to overwhelm your defenses. They're using your own perfect responses against you." Marcus joined them, his usual grin replaced by intense focus. "Every time you respond according to protocol, they're one step ahead, because they know exactly what you're going to do." A massive explosion rocked the Academy. The main shields were down to 20% power. "What would you suggest?" Vexar's voice carried a note of desperation. "Our entire defensive doctrine." "Forget doctrine," Diana said firmly. "You have the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. Stop using it the way you're supposed to." Vixar looked at the failing defensive screens, then back at the human cadets. For the first time in his long career, he made a decision that violated every protocol in his neural database. "What do you propose?" Diana's eyes lit up. "Sarah, can you access the Academy's entertainment systems?" "The what?" Vixar blinked all his eyes in confusion. "The quantum recreation networks," Sarah explained, already hacking into systems that were never meant to interface with military hardware. "Every species here has their own entertainment frequencies." "Marcus," Diana continued, "remember that thing you did in the simulation with the maintenance shafts?" Marcus's grin returned. "The ones that connect to the external defense turrets, already mapping the route." "And Admiral," Diana turned to Vexar, "we're going to need you to order every team to disconnect their neural links." "Disconnect, but without tactical synchronization." "Exactly." Diana's voice was firm. "The Raiders are counting on you all thinking as one perfect unit. It's time to think as individuals." Vixar's scales shifted through several colors before settling on a shade that indicated either acceptance or severe indigestion. He opened the command channel. "All units, this is Grand Admiral Vexar. By my authority, I am hereby ordering immediate disconnection from all tactical networks. Stand by for." "4." He looked at Diana. "For the most unprofessional defense in military history," she finished with a smile. As the alien cadets disconnected their neural links, many for the first time in their military careers, Sarah's fingers flew across her tablet. The Academy's entertainment systems began broadcasting on all frequencies, creating a chaos of signals that the Raiders' quantum interference couldn't predict or disrupt. Marcus disappeared into the maintenance system, manually repositioning defense turrets in patterns that violated every principle of geometric warfare. Without neural links, the alien cadets began moving independently, their actions no longer bound by perfect synchronization. And Diana, she stood at the command console, coordinating this chaos with the confidence of someone who had never believed in impossible odds. The Void Raiders' first boarding attempt failed completely when they encountered defense turrets firing in rhythm to pop music. Their second wave crashed into a field of quantum particles programmed to respond like a game of Pong. And their attempt to hack the Academy's systems was met with an endless stream of cat videos that caused their cyber attack protocols to crash in confusion. As the Raiders' fleet began to retreat, their perfect attack plan shattered by sheer unpredictability, Vixar turned all his eyes to Diana. "This violated every principle of military combat," he said slowly. "It ignored all established protocols. It went against 500 years of tactical doctrine." Diana nodded. "Yes, sir." And that Vixar's scales shifted to a color the humans had never seen before is exactly why it worked. The Academy's AI announced the all-clear signal, but something had fundamentally changed. The alien cadets were looking at their neural interface ports with newfound uncertainty. Some were actually talking to each other without tactical channels. And in the midst of it all, 3 human cadets stood grinning, knowing that the real lessons were just beginning. Last edited 3 minutes ago. Turning the tide. The Academy's Grand Lecture Hall had never hosted a session quite like this. Instead of perfect rows of neural-linked cadets absorbing tactical protocols, clusters of various species gathered informally, many attempting to sit cross-legged like their human counterparts. Diana stood at the center, feeling slightly surreal about teaching advanced alien civilizations how to be more human. "The key isn't abandoning your technology," she explained. "It's about not letting it limit your thinking." Zarkax, his crystalline form now deliberately unsynchronized from his squad, raised an appendage. "But without perfect tactical coordination, how do you maintain combat efficiency?" Sarah stepped forward, her tablet displaying a simple game of basketball. "Watch these players. They're not mentally linked. They can't share tactical data, but they can read each other's movements, anticipate, adapt. They're improvising within a framework," Marcus added, perched casually on a hovering drone. "Like jazz, but with plasma weapons." The alien cadet's confusion was almost palpable. Grand Admiral Vexar, observing from his command post, noticed something remarkable. For the first time in centuries, his students were asking why instead of simply accepting protocols. "Show us," demanded an Arxian cadet, their adaptive camouflage flickering with excitement. Diana grinned. "Everyone to the combat simulation chamber. Time for some hands-on learning." The chamber materialized a complex urban environment, but this time was different. Instead of splitting into species-specific teams, the cadets mixed together. Humans, Deltarians, Arxians, and others formed impromptu squads. "First lesson," Diana announced. "Turn off your neural links." The aliens hesitated, then one by one, disconnected. Some wobbled, experiencing individual perception for the first time in years. "Now," Sarah continued, "we're going to play a game humans call Capture the Flag, with some modifications." As Sarah explained the rules, Marcus set up what he called environmental challenges, obstacles that required both advanced technology and basic physical creativity to overcome. "Remember," Diana addressed the mixed teams, "you can use your tech, but try to use it in ways it wasn't designed for. Those quantum shields, maybe they can be trampolines. Those stealth fields, think strobe lights." What followed was perhaps the most chaotic training session in the Academy's history. Deltarian crystals refracted light in impossible patterns, creating impromptu disco effects that confused targeting systems. Arxian cadets discovered their camouflage could be used to create moving optical illusions. More importantly, they were laughing. The rigid discipline gave way to genuine enjoyment, as they discovered new ways to use their advanced capabilities. "This is highly irregular," Vixar muttered, but his scales had shifted to a shade indicating deep interest. The breakthrough came when Zarkax's team faced a seemingly impossible obstacle. Their standard protocols offered no solution. The crystalline warrior looked at his human teammate, then did something unprecedented. He asked, "What do you think?" The human cadet's suggestion involved using Deltarian crystal resonance in a way no engineer had ever intended. It worked perfectly. "I believe I understand now," Zarkax announced afterward. "Your species' greatest strength isn't your unpredictability. It's your ability to help others become unpredictable." Diana nodded. "Humanity's real gift isn't chaos. It's teaching others how to dance with it." The training sessions evolved. Alien cadets began incorporating Earth sports into their combat drills. Strategic discussions included references to human music, art, and games. The Academy's AI reported unprecedented levels of creative problem-solving. During one particularly innovative exercise, Sarah noticed something on her tablet. "Diana," she called out, her voice tense. "Remember those Void Raiders? They're coming back," Marcus confirmed, his eyes on the long-range sensors. Bigger fleet this time. But instead of panic, the Academy's response was different. Cadets from all species gathered, not in perfect formation, but in organic groups already brainstorming unconventional strategies. "They're expecting us to be in disarray after their last attack," an Arxian cadet suggested. "They don't know we've learned to thrive in chaos." Vixar approached Diana, his scales now showing a color reserved for profound respect. "Cadet Wells, the Academy's defense traditionally falls under the highest-ranking instructor's command. But given recent developments..." Diana looked at the gathered cadets, no longer divided by species or doctrine, but united in their newfound appreciation for creative thinking. "Sir," she replied with a smile, "I think it's time for the galaxy's first improvisational defense force." As the Void Raiders approached, they detected none of the standard defense patterns they had expected. Instead, the Academy's defensive screen lit up with an invitation to what humans called a party. They were about to learn why you should never crash a party planned by humans and taught to aliens. The real revolution wasn't just in how they would fight. It was in how the galaxy's future defenders had learned to think. And it all started because 3 human cadets dared to suggest that sometimes the best way to follow protocol was to break it entirely. Respect earned. The Void Raiders' fleet emerged from quantum space expecting to find a weakened academy, struggling to maintain its rigid defensive protocols. Instead, they found something unprecedented in galactic military history. The Academy's defense platforms were arranged in what appeared to be a smiley face. "Are they mocking us?" The Raider commander's cybernetic systems struggled to process the display. "Oh, that's just the distraction." Diana's voice came clearly through their supposedly secure command channel. Sarah had thoroughly enjoyed explaining how she'd hacked it using principles from a 21st-century video game. The Raiders' first wave encountered what appeared to be a standard Deltarian crystal formation, but when they fired, the crystals, piloted by cadets who had finally learned to trust their instincts over their programming, split apart in a dazzling display that scattered their attack beams into a rainbow of harmless light. "Did we just turn their quantum weapons into a laser light show?" Marcus asked from his position in a modified defense turret. "Technically," Sarah replied, coordinating the defense from her tablet, "we turned them into a dubstep concert." The Raiders' second wave deployed their infamous boarding pods. They expected to find separate species fighting in their traditional styles. Instead, they found mixed teams of cadets who had learned to combine their abilities in ways that defied tactical analysis. An Arxian stealth specialist emerged from cover, their adaptive camouflage synchronized with a Deltarian's crystal refraction to create what Marcus had dubbed the disco ball of doom. The Raiders' targeting systems crashed trying to process the input. In another sector, a team of cadets had reprogrammed the Academy's maintenance drones to perform what they called synchronized swimming, through the vacuum of space, creating patterns that confused enemy targeting systems while delivering precisely targeted strikes. "This is not possible," the Raider commander broadcast. "Your species cannot coordinate without neural links." "We're not coordinating," Diana replied cheerfully. "We're improvising." Vixar watched from the command center as his cadets implemented strategies that violated every principle of conventional warfare. A team of Deltarians was using their crystalline forms to play what humans called pinball with Raider drones. An Archean squad had adapted their stealth technology to project what appeared to be Earth cat videos onto enemy shields, causing their predictive algorithms to have what Sarah termed a existential crisis. "I have served in the Galactic Defense Force for 3 centuries, Vixar announced, his scales shifting through colors of amazement, "and I have never seen anything like this." "That's kind of the point, sir," Diana replied. "They expected perfect military precision. We gave them TikTok trends with quantum weapons." The final blow came when Sarah activated what she called Protocol Rickroll, broadcasting that infamous Earth song across every quantum frequency the Raiders used. Their cyber-enhanced minds, programmed to find patterns and predict responses, simply couldn't handle the combination of tactical chaos and 20th century Earth pop music. As the Raider fleet retreated in complete disarray, the Academy erupted in celebration. But it wasn't the rigid, protocol-approved celebration of previous victories. Cadets from all species were attempting human high fives, some with more success than others. "I must admit," Zarkax approached Diana, his crystalline form glowing with newfound warmth, "we were wrong about humans. Your species' apparent weakness, your unpredictability, is actually your greatest strength." "Not exactly," Diana corrected him. "Our greatest strength is teaching others how to be unpredictable when they need to be. Technology is amazing, but imagination is unbeatable." In the days that followed, the Galactic Defense Academy underwent unprecedented changes. The curriculum was revised to include what they called human tactical creativity, alongside traditional combat protocols. Neural links became optional rather than mandatory. Some instructors even began encouraging cadets to play games between training sessions. During the graduation ceremony, Grand Admiral Vixar made an announcement that would be remembered in galactic history. "For 500 years, this academy has taught the perfect way to wage war. Today, we recognize that perfection can be a limitation. These human cadets have taught us something invaluable. That true strength lies not in following protocols perfectly, but in knowing when and how to break them effectively." As Diana, Sarah, and Marcus received their graduation insignias, they noticed something different in how the alien cadets looked at them. It wasn't the contempt they'd faced when they arrived, nor was it the awe that had followed their initial successes. It was respect, the kind that comes from understanding that different doesn't mean inferior. "So," Marcus asked as they prepared to return to Earth, "think we changed the galaxy?" Sarah checked her tablet one last time. "According to my calculations, we just made the galaxy about 42% more interesting." Diana watched as a group of alien cadets attempted to recreate a human dance move while maintaining their quantum field integrity. "We didn't just change the galaxy," she said. "We taught it how to change itself." And that, perhaps, was humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. Not our technology, not our military might, but our endless capacity to look at the rules, smile, and ask, "What if we tried something different?" The stars seemed a little brighter as their ship departed, carrying 3 human cadets who had taught the galaxy's finest warriors that sometimes the best way to win isn't to be the strongest or the most advanced. It's to be the most human.